just before dawn. Walking into the dense, sweaty smell of the gym, you notice that there was an effort to cover up the malodorous stench with linen sky Febreze. You decide to warm your muscles on the treadmill before beginning your workout. You choose a treadmill in front of the gym, in front of the window. Looking out of the window, you can see the subtle bursts of purple and pink projecting from the horizon. You become disinterested in this exquisite blur of radiant colors in front of you. And you look to your left. There is a mirror that stretches from floor to ceiling. You have never liked mirrors, but really, you have never felt content with the way you look in a mirror. You see yourself not looking like that fitness Instagram influencer you follow. At that glance to your left, you're reminded of why you were at the gym. Feeling hopeless, you look down at the treadmill screen. It flashes, calories burned, heart rate, miles logged. You notice the miles logged and realize that you have only walked half a mile. You are already exhausted, but then again, you can't stop. You have only begun. In your pursuit for physical perfection, you ignore your weary body and demand your body's obedience. Gazing out of the window again, you can see the sun peeking through as a new day is born, and you think to yourself, why do I want a perfect body? You feel an absence. Where is it? You feel it somewhere deeper. You think it must be because you do not have the Sports Illustrated body you have dreamed about. But no, this feeling has a powerful grip on you, like a deep longing digging into your inner being. A prey of emptiness, you quickly dismiss this feeling and look down at the treadmill screen. It flashes. 1 mile. You are fed up with step after step and hop off the treadmill, knowing that you will never be released from the incessant hold your physical performance has on you. You walk over to the weight rack and reach for the cold steel of a 10-pound weight laying in front of you. You begin to curl it. But you feel a disconnect as your body completes the motion and your mind stands apart in this strange feeling. You feel caught in a quiet dualism. Dualism has become a major influence in today's American society. The view that the mind and the body are separate beings instead of working together as one unified vessel is dualism. The ancient philosophers Plato, Parmenides, and Aristotle suggested that the mind and the body are one. Dualism came about in the 17th century by a philosopher named René Descartes. Descartes argued that the human body is a complex physical system, while the mind is a place where the soul resides. He acknowledged that the two substances interact, but are completely separate entities. Descartes thought of the human body as a machine being powered by the mind. His argument is, quote, I can imagine not having a body, but I cannot imagine not having a mind. Therefore, mind must be separate from body. Into the 18th century, Cartesian dualism was widely popular. The physical body became studied much more because it was understood that there was much more certainty in the physical body. Physicians steered away from the unsolvable question of mind and soul to something that could be observed, the body. Philosophy and science were no longer one integrated profession, but were split during this Cartesian revolution. Into the 19th century, human anatomy became studied and understood. Localization theory served as a groundbreaking scientific theory, proposing that sensory and mental functions were located in this certain region of the cerebral cortex. This theory led to the soul being disassociated from the brain, reinforcing the idea that the human brain anatomy belonged to the anatomist and the study of the soul belonged to the philosopher. Dualism has clearly infiltrated the medical field. Modern Western medicine has shifted from the emphasis of the soul and the body existing as one, to the body being for medicine and the soul being for another profession's problem. Today, in doctors' offices across the world, doctors only treat individuals who appear physically ill in some way. A modern doctor rarely inquires about the mental or spiritual health of their patient. In the year 2021, there was over 4 million fitness influencers on Instagram and YouTube alone. In physical fitness, a dualistic view has become far too common. A good body is one that is productive, active, healthy, while a bad body is one that is lazy, lacks willpower, and unhealthy. Culture has this subconscious idea of the body as a device that can complete an action. Social media and news networks work to inform people about these new and approved social and cultural norms. Because of millions of social media influencers all appearing in the same shape and having the perfect, flawless lifestyle, this leads many of their viewers to think the way these influencers look is the way the viewers themselves should look, causing the viewers to adopt an unhealthy view of their own appearance. This kind of lifestyle is not achievable for the average human. The effects that social media has on a young person's body is very destructive. The obsession with the physical body has become a very relevant issue in the 21st century. Among religious church-going Americans, a dualistic dichotomy is built into their weekly lives. Most Americans attend church once a week. Sundays are set aside for the individual's spiritual growth, but the rest of the week is spent going to sporting events, appointments, going to the gym daily, and many other activities, reinforcing this mind-body divide Americans have become accustomed to. Health is the condition of being sound in body and mind. Physical health is to be defined as aspects relating to a person's overall strength and appearance. And spiritual health is to be defined as meaning, purpose, and connection to God. To reunite the spiritual with the physical and fix the problem of dualism is to rightly order the severity and urgency of spiritual health and then act accordingly in terms of physical health. Everyone can agree upon the fact that healthy bodies should be upheld and cared for. Christians should agree that a God exists at the center of a Christian's life, impacting all they do, say, and think. God is the giver of our lives, and all things we do work for His glory and in light of eternity. The issue of over-prioritization of physical health has become very apropos in today's culture. With social media, the consciousness of the body is currently relevant. With the fitness industry at a peak regarding fitness endurance, physical influence, and supplements, physical health is on most everyone's mind. Christians understand that spiritual health is not to be neglected over physical health, but many Christian leaders are incentivizing believers to partake in exercise for the upkeep of the temple of the Holy Spirit. It is widely agreed upon that health, both spiritual and physical, should not be neglected among Americans. But spiritual health should be prioritized over physical health to correct mind and body dualism in American society. First, what if Americans treated the body more like a godly instrument instead of a means to a human end? In today's culture, there is a quick growing motivation and market for viewing the body as something that can be pushed in endurance, strength, an instrument that can lose weight and gain muscle. Philosophers call this instrumentalizing the body, which means treating the body as a tool that can be used and controlled, a means to an end, instead of valuing the body for its inherent worth, like that of a proud car owner who is fixated on tuning and shining his car when his car was originally designed to transport. People view the body as something that can achieve a desired physique. Through achieving their desired physique, they expect more confidence and fulfillment, but only find that they have really just devalued their bodies, not assigning their bodies natural value. Nowadays, dieting is more about the lowest amount of carbs you can eat to lose weight, or the most amount of protein you can eat within a day to gain muscle. Culture is less focused on eating just to fuel their body, and more dialed in on calories in, calories out. Today's society distorts the body for instrumentalizing the body for self-glory. The doctrine of instrumentality and theology suggests that while God is the principal cause, humans act as a secondary instrumental cause in the execution of God's will. In the Bible, God uses many instruments to fulfill His divine purpose. God uses prophets in various marvelous ways. The prophets were to foretell the coming of the Messiah. Through these prophets, God uses them as instruments of His voice. Priests in the Old Testament were ambassadors interceding between God and His people. God uses the priesthood to minister to a broken people. The last example is God's instrumentalization of the king. King Jesus is the ultimate example of interceding between the divine and humanity. Through the instrumentality of prophet, priest, and king, God bridges the gap between the divine and humanity for his glory and ultimate purpose. Second, what if Americans viewed endurance as a spiritual rather than just physical matter? In the physical fitness world, endurance is a trending concept. Endurance in running, bodybuilding, and everyday life itself. Many Americans who are into physical fitness strive to upkeep their physical endurance. Endurance training brings with it loads of trials and tribulations that a runner experiences, but overcoming, making the runner stronger every mile. Endurance in this case requires a dedicated goal for finishing the race well done and to the best of the runner's abilities, a love and desire for the action of running, and a discipline for the sport of running. Human bodies are made for God, to glorify Him with all they do and say. When the sole focus is on the betterment of one's physical endurance, to a certain point, this will consistently let one's weary soul down. But if the focus is first and foremost on the cultivation of one's spiritual endurance, it has the power to bring physical endurance to a new light. Paul writes in Timothy, quote, "For while bodily training is of some value, godliness is of value in every way, for it holds promise for the present life and for the one to come." Through spiritual endurance in God, individuals can truly find meaning. Physical endurance training is only meaningful in light of eternity, and true joy is in communion with God. Third, American dualism shows up most prevalently in how Americans use their time and money. The average American person spends the majority of their dollars on the image, including hair products, beauty products, gym memberships, workout classes, and supplements. An exorbitant amount of money is going into the betterment of one's physical health. American fitness enthusiasts spend around 3 hours in the gym each morning stretching and then making meals that will further their fitness goals. Rounding the average fitness enthusiast to spending at least 18 hours per week in the gym stretching and eating to support their goals. 63% of Americans enter a gym every day, but only 37% of Americans enter a religious space once a week. Average churchgoers spend around 6 hours, if at all, in their local churches each week. Americans only make time for church on Sundays, and during the week they busy themselves with the gym and many other activities. Everyone can agree that humans have the ability to lose weight, become healthier, and gain strength. While many believe that losing weight and gaining strength can build confidence, some influencers, like Katie McCreary, promote that achieving a perfect body is what truly brings confidence and comfort in life. Though her desire to help women is compassionate, she mistakenly presents physical perfection as the answer to comfort in life, as the answer to discomfort in life. She believes that physical health is the answer to mind-body dualism. Confidence rooted in appearance will always fail. Because bodies are imperfect and cannot be perfected in this life, striving for that ideal will always let one's weary soul down. As John Piper says, the world values self-confidence above all, but humility is far more important, as it cultivates faith, worship, obedience, and a love for Christ. In the New Testament, Paul lays out how humans are both physical and spiritual beings. He says, quote, "If there is a natural body, there is also a spiritual body." Both Christians and people who believe in Cartesian dualism hold to the view that humans are both spiritual and physical beings. Despite holding to this view, these parties have radically different defining beliefs about dualism. Professor Richard Swinburne argues that physical body of an individual does not make that individual themselves. Their soul does. He says, quote, "If bodily continuity is neither logically sufficient nor logically necessary for a human person," end quote. He follows that an individual could be the same individual in a different body. But this way of thinking gives way to many social issues in today's American culture, like transgenderism. How can a physical body be impersonal to an individual, considering that God has made everyone specific and unique to their own being? Quote, "You have knitted me together in my mother's womb. I praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Wonderful are your works." End quote. Psalms 139, verses 13 through 14. Physical bodies and souls have a relationship of continuity that is very personal, sufficient, and necessary for a human person. Ultimately, the obsession with physical health has from the beginning of time been a temptation, but now more than ever that temptation has amplified. Social media has played a major role in maximizing this issue, bringing this issue to a climax. The fitness industry has become an idol to millions of Americans. Many are taking a dualistic philosophy of life because it aligns with the obsession of the physical health. Physical health has the ability to be used as an instrument for God's glory, but many have fallen short for using physical health to glorify God. Endurance training is only meaningful in light of eternity, and true joy is in communion with God. Americans tend to prioritize physical fitness, spending significant time and money on the gym routine and the body image, while comparatively dedicating far less time and commitment to church involvement. Physical bodies are a gift from the Lord, and individuals are to glorify Him through the action of their bodies. David Mathis writes in a little theology of exercise, quote, "How do I experience God's natural gift of physical exercise in such a way that will profit the spiritual? How do I make exercise holy?" End quote. The focus should be shifted on how I can serve and honor and glorify God with physical health. To do that, I offer some implementations that can be applied in everyday life. Walk with no distraction, observing God's workmanship, or use that time as a time to pray intentionally. Invite a friend or family member to work out with you. And begin every workout with prayer and gratitude to God, treating the workout as a devotion to Him for the gift of physical abilities and strength. But what if the gym and church were inverted? Gyms are filled with regular members completing workouts daily. The gym becomes a natural built-in community, seeing the same people every day, seeing a trainer a few times a week, taking workout classes with the same set of people. What if church looked like the gym did every morning? Church community would be encouraged to converse with their church members. Just as gym members see a trainer regularly, church members could be counseled and discipled regularly. This could be somewhere where individuals come to exercise their mind with fellow believers. Such a change would make a church much more dynamic and grow much more spiritually inquisitive and intentional members. So next time you find yourself on that treadmill, gazing out at the subtle bursts of purple and pink projecting from the horizon, use that image to thank the wondrous God who made you. Thank you.
Jesus tells us to love our neighbors. Is the love he is describing more a spiritual act or a physical one?
Thank you for your question. May I have a few moments to consult me? Okay, I'm ready. So, to start off, God never intended for the spiritual and the physical to be separated. He views us as both spiritual and physical beings. When he comes back to make all things new, he will perfect the spiritual and the physical. So when Jesus gives that command to love our neighbor, I believe that he is assuming that the love is both spiritual and physical. In James, the second chapter of James, it says, if a brother or sister is poorly clothed and lacking in daily food, and one of you says to them, "Go in peace, be warmed and filled," without giving the things they need for the body, what good is that? So also, faith by itself, if it does not have works, is dead. So I believe that you can't just love spiritually without also having the action of loving. And in the neighbor's point of view, if you are trying to live out that command to love your neighbor, how is your neighbor going to see that you are loving them if God has laid that on your heart and your mind to love your neighbor, but you are not showing them that through acts of service, through maybe a hug or something along those lines?
So just quickly to follow up with that, if we prayed for our neighbor, they didn't know about it, would that be enough in the context of love, as you just characterized it?
I think that if you say, for an example, you pray for maybe you're praying for someone who doesn't know you, then that is the act of love that you can do so far as what you have. Like, you can't go fly and give that person a hug physically and say, "I love you, I'm here for you." But I think that if you have in your vicinity, like your neighbor, which means the person who lives next to you or is in your community, something along those lines, that the love should be both spiritual and physical.
Okay. In your thesis, you're pretty critical of social media, even going as far as to call it an idol. So if it even approaches the line of idolatry, should Christians use it at all?
Thank you for your question. We have a few moments to consult my notes. Okay, I'm ready. To start off, I think that is just a place where temptation can easily arise, social media. But I think if you are constantly reminded, I kind of talk about social media in terms of the body image and how you're seeing people, or they're posting their physical image online, and that's what we're seeing. We're not really seeing their character or anything. So with that, I think that it is, if you were to use social media as a Christian, you should constantly be reminded that the value of your body does not lie in whether you're tan, or whether you have biceps, or whether you, I don't know, other examples. But it lies in your intrinsic worth that you have in being created in the image of God. And so I think if you approach social media with that in mind and constantly reminding yourself of that, then I think you can use it to glorify God.
Do you use social media?
Yes, I do.
Do you find that it allows you to glorify God?
I think in some ways, I mean, I'm not like a fan of a super big fan of social media. I think it is a temptation that if it was eliminated, I think things would be better. But, can you ask your question again?
I
Okay.
found it as a tool that allows you better
Okay, yes. And that, I think sometimes I can reach out to people on social media, and in that way, it can be glorifying to God. But I just think too, if you want to use social media, you can use it in a way that is glorifying to God. If you start with presuppositions that God has set for us.
If
That-
you're able to keep this in mind.
Yes, exactly.
Approaching it is not something who Christians should be fearful of.
Yes.
Okay. I really like your the church and the gym that you do at the end of your speech, where you challenge us to think about the church and the gym as something that we should flip in our lives. So let's say the church does become more like a gym. It's open more often and used more frequently by Christians. When we use the gym more often, there are often tangible results. You get bigger muscles, you feel more mentally clear, your cardiovascular health improves. What tangible results would there be if Christians used the church more often?
Thank you for your question. May I have a few moments to consult my notes?
Yes.
Thank you. Tangible, as in like physical things?
Things that we could see evidence of in our lives. Like at the gym, you can see, often you can see if you're consistent evidence that
Okay.
you're losing body fat
Yes.
and gaining muscle.
Yes, okay, thank you.
I think you already said it once earlier. You talked about the community being one that is of discipleship rather than one that is of collective sweating.
Yeah. Okay. Okay,
So I
and
think that's a good example of a tangible result.
to add to that, I think biblical knowledge, like if you were there and you had, you were being counseled or you took a class on a certain book of the Bible, and I think you could you would be able to dive a lot deeper into the Bible, rather than just going every Sunday and hearing. You could in other words, you could really start dialing in on verse by verse, and have a greater knowledge of the Bible, which I feel like I should. So I think we could use more of that.
Improvement in depth of knowledge of scripture.
Yes.
Okay, can you remind everyone, so Descartes articulated dualism initially. What was his famous saying?
I think therefore I am, or his quote, I can just read it one more time. I can imagine not having a body, but I cannot imagine not having a mind. Therefore, mind must be separate from body.
Okay, so there's a philosopher, James K. Smith, who famously, this one I think is pretty famous, who articulated that this posture of dualism reduces human beings to what he called brains on a stick. So, what I'm going to ask you is, why doesn't dualism work? Why don't correct thoughts lead to good lives?
Thank you for your question. May I have a few moments to consult my notes?
Yes.
Okay, so James K. Smith also says, quote, human dualism reduces human beings to brains on a stick. So in that, his book, You Are What You Love, he kind of goes through why right thoughts, I'm using the question that you sent to me.
That's fine.
Yeah. Why don't right thoughts lead to good lives? And he argues that would be wonderful if that did, but that's not the reality. God gave us a physical body and an environment. He gave us social interactions, physical social interactions. And to say that right thoughts equal a good life would be illogical, because I can say, or I can think all that I want, that I know it is wrong for me to be unkind to my brothers or my siblings. But have I been unkind to my brothers or siblings? Yes. And so the thought, and also, God gave us physical bodies, and we experience things through social interactions. We have physical desires. We're not just all thoughts. So, yes. And then we are also supposed to glorify God with all that we do, say, and we think. So we can't just glorify God with what we think. We also have to glorify Him with what we do and we say, which are physical things.
Okay.